Kawhi Leonard brought the Clippers back from down 3-2 to eliminate Luka and the Mavs. Paul George came up big as well. Top seed Jazz had the best record in the NBA and took care of the Grizzlies in 5. Donovan Mitchell leads a balanced and deep Utah team that takes and makes more three-pointers than any team in the league. The East top seed 76ers look to bounce back after dropping Game 1 at home to the Hawks. Trae Young had 25 of his 35 points in the first half that saw Atlanta build a 26-point lead. Joel Embiid had 39 points, 9 rebounds, and Philly rallied with some full-court pressure late to get within 3, but no closer. Victoria caught up with Tim Bontemps to talk hoops.
For more NBA action, we welcome in Tim Bontemps. And Tim, let's get right to it. Starting with the Sixers and Joel's health. He played yesterday. He absolutely crushed it, needless to say, but he is playing in pain. And how does this change things for the long run for him?
Well, look, throughout most of that game on Sunday, it looked like Joel Embiid was moving well and playing well. Like you said, he was dominating Clint Capella inside and certainly wasn't any part of the reason why the Sixers lost that game. But late in the fourth quarter, he came down hard on that right leg with all of his weight on it and immediately winced and limped around a little bit, right? And that was a moment when everybody in the building and everybody watching at home in Philadelphia kind of had the breath catching their throat. And those are the kind of moments that everybody involved with that team is going to be looking at over the next few weeks. You know, Joel's going to try to play through this small meniscus tear in his knee, and certainly, hopefully, he's able to do that because he's one of the best players in the league, and it's certainly much better seeing him out there on the court. But every time he lands on that leg and puts his weight on it, there's going to, everybody's going to kind of tense up and see how he feels because, this is clearly an injury that if it gets worse, he's going to have to get shut down, and that could obviously dramatically impact not only Philadelphia's chance of getting out of the series and beyond, but also the whole title picture because the Sixers are clearly one of the teams to beat in the NBA after the season they've had.
And speaking of injuries and impact, let's jump to Jazz and the Clippers. And the story we've all been following is Mike Conley, who left Game 5 against the Grizzlies on Wednesday with a hamstring strain. But he's saying he'll be ready for the next round. And Tim, I have to ask you, will he be ready?
I mean, I certainly expect Mike Conley to be out there if he can be. But again, this is another injury that is going to really bear watching as we go forward. Mike Conley just missed a bunch of time during the season with a hamstring strain. We saw what happened in Nets-Bucks with James Harden leaving 45 seconds into the first game with his own reoccurrence of a hamstring strain. And I think the Jazz are good enough to win this series and to go on to even potentially win the title, but they need to have their full complement of guys available. Donovan Mitchell's now back from the ankle injury, but they need him and Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert and everybody else firing on all cylinders because unlike these teams that are built around, Kevin Durant and James Harden or Giannis Antetokounmpo or even Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, the team that the Jazz are playing. The Jazz are built around an ensemble cast of guys that lift each other up and accentuate the way they all play. If they don't have all those guys there firing on all cylinders, they're not nearly the same team, and they're going to need to be that good if they want to get where they want to go.
Well, and you mentioned Donovan Mitchell, and his comeback has been absolutely excellent. The Jazz actually haven't lost since he came back going 4-0. But do you think, you've talked about firing on all cylinders. Do you think that they can keep this momentum going with Donovan Mitchell coming back?
I definitely do. And I think that because Utah lost that first game and went down in that series 1-0 to the Memphis Grizzlies, who were kind of an unheralded team, I don't think people really focused in on that series and saw how well Utah was playing and conversely how well Memphis was playing. That was a real challenge for Utah to get through that series in 5 games. They passed it with flying colors. And like you said, when Donovan Mitchell got back on the court, Utah looked like a totally different team. They controlled a lot of that series. They played great. And look, they were the best team in the NBA this season by virtually every single measure, most importantly wins, for a reason. And they have been a team that's been, if you just look at their statistical profile, they're a team that looks like an NBA championship caliber team. And I know they don't have the one, top 5 player that you look at to say this is a guy that's going to lead a team to a title, but they have everything else you look at to think they're good enough to be championship worthy. So I definitely think they can keep this going. And again, if they can keep their, those 2 guards healthy, they're going to be a really tough out in the Western Conference playoffs and beyond.
It will be an interesting playoff run if they can keep this momentum. Thank you, Tim, for joining us.